I understand that right now I'm putting in a lot of hard work and a lot of money to build a foundation that could really support a lot of people in the future and their families. You know, I kid myself. I'm like, I'm taking a break. And it's just like email, phone call, opportunity. And I can't not say yes, because a yes for me is like 25 yeses for the people that I work with, you know?
Welcome to the Heart of Advocacy, where we shine a spotlight on remarkable individuals committed to building a more equitable and just world. I'm Doni.
And I'm Ken. We're with the Advocates, a law firm serving the Pacific Northwest. Join us as we explore the inspiring journeys of these heroes who uplift marginalized voices, serve their communities, and break down barriers to create a brighter future for everyone. One of our attorneys just did a trial and got so close to a verdict, and then the defense, the insurance companies, they just caved right before. It's cool to see us go to trial and get results, but it was disappointing because Tom was just about to deliver his closing arguments to the jury.
Yeah.
And then they settle. And so...
Well, that's that's their strategy, right?
Yeah.
It's diminish, delay, and then cave.
Deny,
and then cave. It's just so annoying. It's like they play this game of chicken for years. And who suffers? At the Advocates, we don't play chicken.
That's why I say that if they're playing chicken with us, they're playing chicken with a train.
Yeah. We won't be swerving.
Speaking of unswerving.
Yes, of relentless. Let's talk about Fancy Vargas.
Oh my gosh. Somebody that is more hardworking than anybody I've ever met.
Yeah.
I mean, so outgoing, so passionate about everything. I mean, I don't know how easily you could describe all the things she does.
I know. Yeah, Fancy. She's a mom. She's an entrepreneur, an art curator, a community activist. She does a lot of event planning. I mean, she has just really led the community these last few years and showed up to so many groups and people. I mean, the groups alone that she runs, she has a PR company, Elevate PR, kind of a boutique style art agency called Cultivate the Collective. She has what's called the Hatchery Co-op, which is kind of a pop-up market. And what else? Oh, Prism. Oh my gosh, Prism.
That sounded so cool.
Yeah, that one really hit home for me, but it's an interactive mental health initiative that it kind of integrates various holistic approaches like ecotherapy, art therapy, and really tries to heal people and get them back on a path that they choose, a healthy path.
Yeah, we went a few weeks ago to one of Fancy's events on Bainbridge Island.
Black and Bougie.
That was so fascinating.
She has a lot of perspective that she's taken the time to unpack and harness into something incredible, and she's given it back to the community. And it was really, I love Fancy. It's fun being with her. She's real. Fancy's real. And so I'm super excited for you guys to hear.
All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
If you could go back to yourself 20 years ago, what does your past self think about what you're doing now?
I think that she would be like, WTF all day long. A, how are you still alive? Like, how are you a whole ass mom and a businesswoman? I think like coming from the gutter, like she would just be like, whoa, you know?
Wow.
Impressed.
Yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah. Like in shock, in disbelief, like just flabbergasted. Truly, like the first statement, like, how are you even still alive, would probably be like a thing. Yeah. Because I think like looking back now as an adult, especially as a mom, I just think like half the shit that I did, like, you should have been dead. You're not making smart choices, Fancy. And I think around that time too, like I was homeless, so it would have been it just would be just crazy to go back that far and to just see the different dynamics. Um, I wish we had that magic power.
Right.
You know, like just to tell her, like, basically, like, I know that everything seems really hopeless, but you're going to be okay, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to be proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know your family immigrated to the States when you were
Mhm.
young, 6? How old were
No,
you?
I'm first generation. So my mom and dad got here literally right before they had us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was around 6, 7 is when we learned how to speak English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I remember, because I remember
Yeah.
6
Yep.
specifically. Okay. So what do you think, or who do you think played a big role in your development from a really young age and kind of turned you into who you are today?
Well, my mom was a single mom, so definitely even with the tumultuous relationship we had, I do think that now, again, being a mom and looking back, she really did do the best that she could. I tried to have a lot of like compassion and understanding about her background, and just knowing that generationally, like, we all just get a little better. But watching, like, growing up and watching how hard she worked, not having her papers, like, or her green card, and working 2 jobs that paid $2 an hour, and having kids on her own, and never ever did she ever take a shortcut. Like, I think you meet a lot of people that come from the hood that do things to survive, which, no judgment. You got to do what you got to do to take care of your family. My mom never ever did anything that she wouldn't be proud of down the line. And I think that really stuck with me. I think that after I had kids, there were moments where, like, things were really hard financially, like with their dad and our family dynamic, where we could have taken shortcuts, but never. The way that I see it, um, I never want to take resources from someone that needs it more than I do. So I think that, again, like, even though my mom wasn't necessarily the mom I wish I would have had, that her work ethic and her character, like who she was to other people, really shaped who I am. I really try to live, and this, might seem corny, but WWJD, like, what would Jesus do? I'm not necessarily religious, but I do have a lot of faith. And that really stemmed from her. The people that we were surrounded by, because she kept us in church, and the blessings that we got just by way of that, really helped shape me as a person. And I really try to, because of those people that were brought in our life, try to be good to everyone. Pay it forward. Even as a little kid, like, I knew that consciously, like, we wouldn't have had food to eat if it wasn't for these people. A pastor gave my mom a car. Like, he's like, I see you busing with your 3 kids and working really hard. Like, me and the church wanted to give you something. Bought her a car. Like,
Wow.
That's so amazing.
yeah, like, just all these different things. Like, even when things were hard, just things were just brought to us. And it really was because of the type of person my mom was. They wanted to bless her because she was a good person. And I think that, like, it's crazy because 2 things can be true at one time. Like, she was a good person, but she struggled with being a mom. Definitely my mom, because she was the only constant we've had in our life, whether negative or positive. Like, definitely my mother. Yeah.
I heard that you love poetry. Where did that come from? Is that something you've always had, or it came on later? Tell me more about that.
So, yeah, because I did the poem instead of a speech. So poetry is something I've always liked to write, like, just in my journal when I was younger. Most of them I've never shared out loud. It was just kind of another coping mechanism, as well as other forms of art. So it's definitely, maybe I started writing when I was little, maybe like 7 or 8. My sister and I, there was these glass fish cups we had in our house. And we would sit at the kitchen table for hours and write songs about the fish cup. Yeah, and just write about just random things. Like, she's 11 months younger than me, so she's 35. Yeah, we're Irish twins. So every year, like this year when she turned 35, I was still 35 until it was my birthday. Yeah, so we're very close. Yeah.
You grew up having to advocate and support others. I remember you saying once that your childhood trauma drove you to be so great today. How has your relationship to advocacy and trauma shifted over the years?
Again, going back to like faith, I have always recognized the blessings that were given to us, even like in the hard time. And I always wanted to pay that forward. I think that I probably still need to go to therapy, I'm sure.
Don't we all?
Yeah. But
100%.
yeah, but the trauma has allowed me to be able to connect with so many different people from so many walks of life. I was talking to my friend and I was just telling him like, well, I've never fit in anywhere, so it doesn't ever bother me. And he's like, yeah, because you fit in everywhere. And I think that my past experiences and all the craziness that we've gone through does allow me like the superpower of being able again to connect with people. And I don't like to see people hurting, and I don't like to see people in pain or struggling. And that's just naturally who I am, like a caregiver. Like growing up taking care of my siblings because my mom had to work a lot, and I kind of took on like the nurturing role within the household with my little sister. Even though she's 11 months younger than me, like the relationship dynamic is very different from a typical sibling relationship. I also have a little brother who's 13 years younger than me, and that was like my literal baby. Like, I just, even now, he's 23 and I still treat him like a baby. Every time I see him, I'm just like, hey, Joshy Poshy. He's like, I'm a man now.
I can drink now.
Yeah. I can drink now. I'm a man. No, you're not. And I don't ever want to hear about you having a girlfriend. So like, I've always, just because of circumstances, been in the role of having to take care of other people. And then I became a mom at 21, so had to take care of them. Seeing a lot of things in my community that didn't sit well with me, and realizing that I do have a strong voice and that people actually do want to listen to me. So I want to advocate for other people. That's something, again, I learned from my mom. Like, we had very little, but she was always taking people in, like always, especially women who were domestic violence survivors, because she was also something we had to see a lot growing up. And she would bring these ladies and their children into our home and until they would get their stuff together and would be able to move out on their own. So again, just watching how she was a good person and wanting to emulate like the best parts of my mom. Now within my business and within my work, like it does make me so happy to see other people win. And sometimes I think that like people have this competitive mindset, but it's like, hey, all of us are so different. Like, you can never do what I do the way I do it. So we're not each other's competition.
Right.
And if I have a friend or a connection that could help you, like, why wouldn't I do that? When one person rises, we all rise. So that really is like my mindset: community over competition always.
In our field in personal injury, like oftentimes people think the competitor is the other firm, like the other PI firm that does
Yeah.
what we do, because the market is as big as it is, and there's only however many clients, and so it's a zero-sum game. One client for us is one less for them, but the reality is that they're not our competition. If they do what, like, a rising tide lifts all boats, I feel like the
Yeah.
exact same way with PI firms. Our competition is the insurance company,
Yeah.
going after our client or not representing their insureds well enough, so then we have to file a lawsuit, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, if our fellow PI firm, another PI firm is doing well, it's kind of like helping this industry as a whole and
Right.
represent plaintiffs, represent people who are hurt, which is what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
That's true.
I totally agree with that.
When you were seeing your mom bring in people that had experienced domestic violence,
Yeah.
did you know how outstanding that was at the time? Or did it take kind of growing up to realize that's not the way everybody behaves?
I understood that we had very little resources, but she was still willing to share whatever we had. So I understood that aspect. It did take me being older to realize that people are not like that.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are very much like, mind your business, stay in your lane. That's not my problem. And now as a grown up, I really don't get along with people like that, because to me, it's like, yeah, it is your problem. When one human suffers, we all suffer. Like, how can you turn a blind eye knowing something? Sometimes like I'll have conversations with friends and they're just like, it's not always safe for you to get involved. I'm like, right, but think about what they're going through. Like, just think about the fact that they could be completely alone and that you could really completely change their life. Like, think about that.
Right now, a big focus of your work today is on the art community. What drove you to this?
So again, when I was younger, I feel like art was always like my saving grace, just in all forms. I grew up being in competitive choir, which I really love singing and I love music. Painting, that was always like a sense of solace for me. Um, I think that when you grow up in a lot of chaos, like you have to learn how to try to tune it out as best as you can. So listening to music and like the lyrics, which is why I love country music. And like
Mm-hmm.
people don't know that. They're like, that's weird. I'm
You
like,
like
no.
that?
Yeah, I love country. It's so sad and depressing. I said, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad and depressing, but like what they're talking about, I can, recognize myself in those lyrics. Nature, because I spend a lot of time in the woods. I love playing in the woods. I was such a tomboy growing up, and catching crawfish and playing in the creek and jumping off trees, and so trying to paint those sceneries when things weren't so awesome as at home was always very comforting. And musical theater and just everything about the arts brought me a lot of peace during like the darkest times in my life. So I think that the work that I do is really driven by the reverence that I have for that field in general. How I ended up doing art was, I didn't even wasn't even trying to do it. Like be in this genre, or really I feel like I created a whole new genre, because the way that I go about art curating is not the way that other people go about it, which I think is cool, because I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but I'm also like giving another avenue or another outlet. And it really just came from me organizing a protest in Renton during the BLM movement. I was protesting in Seattle, but the cops were crazy and my kids wanted to come. And I'm like, no, it's not safe. Let's figure out a way to do a protest in Renton where it's not so intense. But I want to give the kids an opportunity to lead it. And I want them to come out and express how they're feeling about what the images and the stories that they're hearing through art. So we did that, and families came out, and my oldest daughter did a routine that she choreographed, and we had other kids come out and who wrote songs about it, and it was super cute. It was super cute. So then the arts commission came downstairs because I didn't realize we were doing it in front of their building. And they're like, hey, we've been trying to figure out a way to address the BLM movement, but we really wanted to come from community. How do you feel about organizing a city art walk? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm a mom of four and whatever. Like, how am I going to do that? And they're like, well, I'm like, all right, fuck it. We'll do it. I'll Google it. I'll just Google it. Like, whatever questions I have, I'll Google it. And the city has a liaison. Her name is Jessie. And she was really great, like just walking me through the logistical processes of it all. So initially we had about 10 visual artists, and it was during COVID. So that was another barrier that we had to get through. We organize art in all the business window fronts. And then I had a professional videographer record 14 different performance artists. And four of the businesses allowed us to have flat screen TVs in their space in the window front so that people could walk around town and see the performances and the art at a safe distance and on their own terms. And then for our most at risk population, we put it on an app so they could take a virtual tour of the art walk. Yeah. And everything kind of just really grew from there. Again, like I didn't do any of it like with the intention of starting a business. But when I saw the opportunities I was able to provide for the artists, specifically financial compensation for their art, I'm like, okay, I should like try to keep doing this. And I don't know how, but I'll figure it out, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's impressive.
So the
Yeah.
majority of artists make
Yeah.
barely any
Absolutely.
money, and especially not enough to survive.
Yeah.
So your events kind of contrast that. They're
Yeah.
elaborate, they're beautiful.
Thank you.
And I know that they've evolved over the past 4 years. So how do your events work out financially?
Most of the events I try to make it like no cost for the artist to participate. And if anything, it's just like a nominal fee, maybe like $30 processing fee, which covers promotional photography that we might have or any marketing materials that I need to print out. But a lot of times the art events are paid for out of my pocket or from my other businesses. So with the PR and events, I have private clients or private contracts, and then I just feed it back into the art business. With Black Love Market, there's vendor fees. Anything that's left over from event costs is fed back into creating these events and installations and opportunities for the artists. I think because societally, a lot of people don't place value on creatives and artists, I wanted to offset that. Sometimes I get pushback from the family, like, this isn't really worth your time. And I'm like, but it is though. And it's a long game that we're playing. Like I have a understanding of the concept, delayed gratification. I understand that right now I'm putting in a lot of hard work and a lot of money to build a foundation that could really support a lot of people in the future and their families. And that means so much to me and it makes it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the times where I'm like completely overwhelmed, like I have to remind myself, like, this is the long game, Fancy. Like it's hard now, but it won't always be,
Mm-hmm.
So
Here's some of the numbers we have. I mean, just over the last little bit of time. So you have one community disco that had
Yeah.
75 guests, an educational forum with 75 or more guests, 2
Mhm.
gallery shows, 2 wine walks with
Yeah.
600 or more people, 2 Juneteenth celebrations that were 1,300 plus people,
Yeah.
and then 9 pop-up markets, 24 artists curated over at Legion
Yeah.
Sports Bar. That's just getting started.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
Those are all the numbers from 2023.
Oh, that's 1 year.
Yeah.
That's 1 year.
That's 1 year. And
Wow.
this year, it's already insane and we're already in March, It's so great to be able to have a year that starts off like already at an incline because of the back work that I've done in the years past. And, I kid myself. I'm like, I'm taking a break. And it's just like email, phone call, opportunity, opportunity. And I can't not say yes, like, yes, because a yes for me is like 25 yeses for the people that I work with, The Black and Bougie art exhibit, like being able to curate not just the exhibit, but opportunities for 20 Black creatives to be financially compensated, not including the art that was sold, was just like, wow, like this is immediate impact that we can see, you know? So we did the Black and Bougie, and then we did the Hyatt event. Both of those turned out really great. The Rubber Beauties event, which was the first women's art exhibit that happened in March, that was incredible. And I had a lot of anxiety around that, like just working in a new area with new clientele and a new venue. I don't know why Seattle people like to buy their tickets at the last minute. But like even the day before, I was just like, what if nobody comes? It's gonna suck. Like the artists aren't gonna make any money, which that's to me was like the thing that bothered me the most. Like I wanted to make sure that they didn't waste their time for this. So this year, like I closed my client intake books for up to June in January because I already had a lot of people like, we want you to do PR, and that's like the private sector. So I'm like, all right, I need these private contracts to help fund the community work. So I'm definitely at a weird space of growth where I need staff, but you got to make money to spend money.
Yep.
Right.
And scaling, like, that's so foreign to me because starting a business was, again, something I didn't plan. You really can't replace in real life experience, like the things that you've learned. And now that I'm ready to scale, like now I feel like I need a business coach. Like I need someone to teach me how to do this correctly so that I do it right, specifically because we have so many arms and legs to the business. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So, all of the different programs your organization has. Let's clarify a little bit. So, primarily a PR management org,
Yeah.
Elevate PR. And then you have at least 4 subsidiaries, Black Love Market, Prism, the Hatchery Co-op, and
Mhm.
Cultivate the Collective.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what each one of those is,
Yeah.
kind of how they all fit and mesh together.
Yeah. So Elevate PR Management, we are a PR and event planning firm. We primarily work with community organizations or Black-led nonprofits, but again, we take on private clients to help offset the cost specifically for our community organizations. So my prices are listed on my website, but when I work with community orgs or nonprofits, they get about like a 70% discount because I have to be realistic about what they can afford in order to keep doing the good work. And at the end of the day, like that's the most important work, is to help other people create more impact for our community. So that's what we do with Elevate. And then the event planning, anything that I originate goes through there, but then I also have people contract me for event planning as well. The hatchery is actually the very first business I started. I don't talk about it much and I don't really bring it out to play a lot, but that's actually the first business I started. And the hatchery is also a pop-up market that I started with 4 other women at the time. At that time when we started was during COVID, and downtown Renton stupidly was also doing a lot of construction for our small businesses. So the purpose of the hatchery was really to help cultivate events or pop-up markets to drive foot traffic into our downtown area to help our downtown businesses survive. And when we started, we had already lost 40 businesses to COVID. And we couldn't lose anymore. Like that would be devastating for our community. And I had an understanding, like when our businesses do well, our community does well, and our families do well. Prism is our interactive mental health initiative, and it incorporates 8 different types of holistic approaches to mental health. I have a family member very close to me who's currently like struggling with mental health that has caused him to be addicted to drugs and homeless here in Seattle. We almost lost him when I first started Prism, and I just remember like being in bed like just super just depressed because I felt like a lot of the things that he went through that caused the trauma was because of him trying to keep me safe as a little kid.
Oh.
And when that happened, like I really struggled with a lot of guilt, like feeling like, even though logically I knew it wasn't our job to keep each other safe because we were little, like just still feeling like, well, if he wasn't trying to protect me, like this wouldn't have happened to him. So trying to work through that is why I started Prism. I just felt like and I still feel like I'm just waiting for the phone call.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like to someone say like he OD'd and he's gone. And I kind of felt like helpless, like I couldn't do anything to help him. But what can I do to help other people not be in the same situation? So I kind of just like stayed up one night and was doing research, and I don't know why I was hyper focused on a rainbow. And I started doing like legit deep dive research on rainbow and color therapy and color theory, and then somehow ended up on prisms and started doing research about that. And while I was reading, I kind of thought like a prism is kind of like a prison. And I feel like when you're struggling with mental health, you're in a prison in your own mind that you can't escape. And I kind of developed just everything around that concept. I wanted everything to be very intentional and very meaningful. And one of the therapies that we use for Prism is actually a sound booth. And the sound booth is in the shape of a prism, and it's made out of all reflective material. Not glass, because we kind of felt that would be dangerous. But the material is very much like glass or like a mirror. And when you step, depending on what community we're serving, when you step inside the prism, you're able to put on headphones. And like for kids, because we like to work with foster children and want to continue to help them, because like the foster care system, forget it, throw it in the garbage and start over.
Right.
So for them, when they step inside the prism, they're able to put on the headphones and hear like words of love and affirmation from different moms, because many of them probably didn't have a mom. And if they did have a mom, she probably never spoke to them in that way. And we wanted them to be able to like step in there and really like take that with them. For other people who have struggled with drug addiction or suicide survival, we have them step inside and listen to other people's stories who have gone through the same thing. And for adults, it's very different, because when they step in there, they're seeing themselves. And for me, because of my family member, I felt like a lot of it has to do with the fact that he can't face what happened to him. He won't admit it because of, societal norms of like what's okay for a man to feel and what's not. So I wanted for like when an adult went in there and I listened to the stories, for them to be able to look at themselves, to realize like, okay, this is me. I am them. They are me. And I can't escape this. I'm looking at myself. I'm listening to my own story, even if it's in someone else's voice, and I can't escape it. And then having therapists like set up immediately outside of the prism, so that when they go through that and they're ready to get help, they can.
Wow.
Where did you come up with this idea?
I don't like, really just pain. A lot of people meet me and like have this idea of who Fancy is, because I am loud and like fun and funny and always smiling, and like it's like an onion. Like there's so much underneath that. I think that when you grow up in trauma, like you learn how to pretend really well. And it's very rare that I let people into like who I really am and like how I really feel. Because when you're younger and you kind of learn like nobody gives a shit, then you just kind of operate that way. Again, like I said, I probably need to go to therapy. I do. I feel like I do carry a lot with me at all times. Maybe like helping other people deal with their pain is easier than dealing with my own.
Mm.
Maybe that's like a thing. Probably not a healthy thing, but it is what it is. So I think like allowing myself to feel that, specifically with Prism, like really helped. Yeah. For me, ecotherapy is it. Like ecotherapy is just kind of the notion of being in the outdoors and helping, or the outdoors helping you work through your pain. I don't know if you're familiar with forest bathing, but that's basically like essentially skinny dipping, but with intention. Like you go in the water and you release it, you go under and you come out and you're better. So when we have Prism events, we like to set up like a faux garden so they could experience a little bit of what ecotherapy could do for them. And I really want to do a lot more often with Prism, but again, capacity.
Right.
But I think out of all the projects, like that's the one that means the most to me.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about Prism. Wow.
Yeah.
Your work is all about believing in others and kind of helping them with their story and their power. How has helping others with their story helped yours?
When I started my business, I was very much in a place like where Christy, the woman who owned that space, she met me organizing the art walk. And she called me one day and she said, Fancy, I want to put together a pop-up market and I want you to be in charge of 4 of the weeks out of the calendar. And I just remember like being on the phone and like not saying things. She's like, are you there? I was like, yeah, but I don't get it. Like, why do you want me to do it? Like, I'm not a business owner. I have no experience. And she's like, why wouldn't I want you to do it? Look at what you did. Like, why wouldn't I want you to be a part of this? And I just remember like crying on the phone. And then after that, I got another phone call from Diane. You guys met her at one of the dinners from the CEO. And, you know, she's like, I just wanted to tell you that what you did for the art walk changed the way I see everything. And I really appreciate what you've done for our community. And then she texted me and she's like, and by the way, I'm sending you $250 because I appreciate your work and you deserve to be compensated. And then Pippa, like having her just love on me and like constantly pour into me all the time. And I really feel like God really placed all these like older women in my life intentionally. Because, you know, the not so perfect relationship I had with my mom, and because of the fact that I really did not believe in myself. And I struggle with that a lot still. And I don't think that a lot of people see that because of the way that I move and the way that I work, but it's a constant battle for me to like know that I'm capable and to sit in the success that I've had without criticizing myself or tearing myself apart. And I'm very grateful for all of those women and Dr. Linda and Miss Benita who they continue to love on me and lift me up. Like, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without knowing that they love me, that they support me, like no matter what. And I think that like struggling with that myself, anything that I struggle with, I always try to help other people with. So when I see, you know, like these artists who don't know like how incredible they are, I want to pour back into them. A lot of the times they'll price their art for events that we do and I'll come behind them and I'll double it. Like no, like you guys are not going to cut yourself short. Like, how long did it take you to master this skill to get to where you're at today? You know? So I think that again, like struggling with my own self-worth and my own self-esteem and my own self-belief makes me want to help people with that too. You know, like I never want people to feel the way that I'm feeling because I know that it hurts. And that really does help like push me to be there for other people.
Black and Bougie on the road. We
Yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah.
How can people help support making that a reality?
Just resharing about the experience that they had here. Right. I sent the exhibit pitch deck to the Dallas Museum of Art, the Bellevue Museum of Art, Chicago Museum of Art, and then I'm thinking about sending it to one in Louisiana because one of the artisans that's in the show is originated from there. So I try to pick cities where we had artists that had connections or had family because I thought, even if I have to go there in person, like I have someone to stay with, you know? So I'm hoping that we, you know, I do follow up email or phone calls every week and they're like, oh, we know, we got it. Our curatorial staff is so behind, but we'll get back to you. We promise. And I'm like, yeah, you will. Cause I will nag you. I will nag the shit out of you until you call me back.
There you go.
You know?
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, Ken and I went to Black and Bougie this year on Bainbridge, and it was absolutely incredible.
It really was.
It blew
Thank
me
you.
away. Just the different forms of art that were present there. I got a lot of pieces. Kat B, I believe was her name. Kat, K-A-T. She's incredible. But yeah, that was just a really amazing event you put together.
Thank you.
And the interactive piece with everyone that last night that was putting little foil onto that canvas. How did that turn out?
It came out really beautifully. Yeah. I didn't know that the foil came in so many colors. So that was really cool to see. Watching the footage back and seeing like everyone like really enjoy being a part of the creative process was really cool. Because I feel like, and all of us within the art group always say like anybody could do art, and it really is true. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So what I consider art, you might not consider art, you know? So having that aspect of the event was really cool. That was all Christopher's idea.
Like the act of people adding adding pieces to that canvas felt
Yeah.
like art as well. Not
Yeah.
just like the finished product, but like that interactive piece as well.
Absolutely.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for Juneteenth in Renton this year?
So I have been facilitating the big Juneteenth celebration in Renton now. This will be, I think, my 4th year. And that, whoa, is a lot. But I love, love, love seeing the community come out and enjoy it. So it makes it worth it. So we'll be at Liberty Park again this year, 50 Black-owned businesses. This year we're going to cap it at 10 performances because anything more than that was too much. And then we'll also have 6 different presenters. So those are people usually that Dr. Linda works with that are doing the community works, and they come out and share about what they're doing in hopes that other people will get involved. And then we always have things for the kids. Like we'll have 2 bouncy houses, paint, face paint, large yard games, lots of food trucks. Oh my God. Just to go for the food is worth it. The catfish sandwiches last year, Lord, if I could just relive that moment in time.
Are they coming back?
Yeah, they're going to come back this year repetitively just for that catfish.
Talk to us about the buying power of the Black community and how you're looking to bring the benefits of that to the Black community.
The Black community has the biggest buying power in the nation. We spend the most money and we benefit the least from it because Black-owned businesses are not necessarily always set up for success and they're not always supported. So with the work that we do through Black Love Market and through the Juneteenth celebration, we like to offset that. And in addition to coordinating pop-up markets, I also like to facilitate different partnerships with the Black-owned businesses and storefronts or brick and mortar businesses. Or right now we're working on getting some of our businesses into the Hyatt, which is like a huge thing. We also are launching our Bellevue Art Museum takeover. They completely emptied out their gift shop and they have let us take it over. So we'll have about 25 different Black-owned businesses and artists within the Bellevue Art Museum gift shop for a 5-week run. So that's a great way for anybody to come support the work that they're doing. Like for instance, we did a coffee crawl and we needed 500 coffee cups. Well, it just turns out that one of my vendors creates their own cups. So instead of going to a chain, we went to them. So now this business just made, $3,000 off the sale. And now when the city needs something else, now they have a new vendor and the vendor gets to continue to benefit off this relationship that we formed.
Okay, so kind of going back to the art for a second, technology is coming fast, and it feels like the individuals that are left behind a lot of times are creatives.
Yeah.
How do you offset that?
Let's talk about AI art. Like even that, no knock on whatever they're doing, but it's just like, it's very different. The PR side of my business really helps with that because I'm able to tell their story in a way that is captivating and very commercialized to help people come in and continue to support their work. So I really think like that's my role to make sure that societally and communally that we do continue to support our creatives and our artists by amplifying their voice and by solidifying their value within our community.
So when it's all said and done and you look back at all the things you've done, what was going to be the impact on society?
Of course, first and foremost, my children. My youngest daughters have like 28 different business ideas that they want to see. When I do specifically the markets, I bring the kids with me to help me set up, help me instruct the vendors where to go. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. I pay them, like obviously not real wages because they're children and they're just going to buy Snickers with it or whatever. But I do try to, help them know that when they do work, like they're going to get compensated, but B, help them learn the value within building community. And I think that will help continue the good work being done. Again, when other people bring their children, I put them to work too, because they also need to learn that. I really think that like what our kids are learning is the most important thing in order to help the good work continue and help push our society forward, humanity forward. Because like people are like, oh, the children are our future, but yeah, but what are you doing to invest in them? You know? So if I can look back, if I'm gone 40 years from now and I can look down and see these kids that have grown up in community doing the good work and continuing the good work, like that'll be the best thing ever. Yeah.
Wow. I love it.
Such a real answer. Yeah. Okay, final question for now. So the show's all about advocating for people making a difference, like you. Who do you think doesn't get enough credit in our communities for the work and change they fight for?
Probably other community organizers, especially in Seattle. Like there's so many community organizers, and a lot of the people who get recognized widely have the status, but then there's all these little fish who are doing all this big work that people don't talk about. And again, that really does push like my PR work is to amplify the work that they're doing. I wish that people recognized the value in that and knew the time and the resources and the finances that go into really giving back to your community, because I think it helped change the mindset in supporting that work. There's so many great organizations like Build 206. They're one of my favorite. It's an all-male organization that does mentorship for youth, boys and girls. But what I really love about them, because I didn't grow up with a dad, is that many of them will be like the main father figure in these kids' lives. We'll go to their games, to their wrestling meets. The moms can call them and be like, Johnny's not listening and being disrespectful. Bam, one of them is at their house talking to this young man and making sure that, they do have male guidance in their life. Like just because you don't have a dad doesn't mean that you have to miss out on this, because especially for boys, like after a certain point, and even with my son, like he's 12. In reality, a lot of the times I defer to his dad because I can't teach him how to be a man because I'm not a man, And the way that he reacts to his dad is way different than the way that he reacts to me. So there's so much value in that. Made Space Seattle is owned by one of the artists, actually. Her name is Steph, and she opens her space up to community to facilitate everything and anything that you can think of. A space inside, they have monthly open mic nights, so that helps highlight creatives and performers. And I know that when I need something for an event, I just go there. Like it's a one-stop shop, like a literal talent agency is what I like to call it. And the joy that the performers and the creative get from just having an opportunity to share their talent is just so beautiful. So very grateful that they help facilitate that for creatives. And there's just so much amazing work.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah. You've built platforms for people, and that's built a platform for you to take off. And we're just so happy to have you in our life and have you as our friend. And you're someone we look up to, and that's why we wanted you here on the show. And yeah, cheers to 2024. It looks like there's lots coming. We hope you enjoyed today's stories, and join us again at The Heart of Advocacy.
This episode was edited by Kendall Perkinson and mastered by Guido Bertolini. Produced by Deanna Fong and Taylor DeLine. Storyboard and podcast development by Luke Russell.
Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at We Are Advocates. As we wrap up, we'd like to express our heartfelt thanks to you, our listeners, for your continued support and engagement. I'm Doni.
And I'm Ken.
Together, we are all working to make a world more equitable and just. You've been listening to The Heart of Advocacy.
See you next time.